Welcome to the OK Yes podcast with me, Alejandra Copeland. Here we talk about entrepreneurship, how to grow your business, and the storytelling tools you need to create marketing content that gets an OK Yes.
3, 2, 1.
After months of developing your product, you're ready to start selling. You launch a social media campaign, expecting everyone to come running. But then, crickets. What went wrong? To explain what's in a successful social media campaign launch, I invited my dear friend and marketing whiz, James Nieves. He's worked with so many brands, including BlackBerry Mobile, Amazon, and T-Mobile. Welcome, James!
Thank you for having me, Ale.
So social media has become an intrinsic part of our lives, but consuming content is not the same as creating content. For those brands and startups that have never done it, where do you start if you're looking to launch a social media campaign?
Really important question, and one that's so critical at the onset for many brands. I always say look inward, then look outward. And so the inward look for brands is really just establishing purpose. Why am I doing this? What difference can I make? And I think really making sure that your brand North Star is really well codified and you've gotten written out, you know exactly what your mission is super important, because social can take you a lot of different areas, lots of different directions. And so really having that purpose nailed down is, I think, super critical. So once you've got that purpose, then you can really tactically understand which channels are going to be the most important for you, right? You don't want to spread yourself too thin, trying to be everywhere for everyone, but knowing who your audience is. And I think that's where you then look outward. Look at the competition, look at the competitive set. Great products can be amazing, fantastic, but if they don't fit the market that they're going into, they ultimately are going to fail. And so understanding the market you're heading into and the competitive landscape is super important. If you're selling a Gen Z style product, but you're advertising on Facebook and doing social content on Facebook, you might be missing out on all the great content and audience that is living out there on TikTok. So product market fit, super important, and understanding which platforms are going to be the most valuable for you. And I think looking at your competitive set is really important as well. Not to copy them, but to get that little bit of inspiration to understand if your competition isn't where you want to be, there's maybe a good reason for that. And so again, understanding your audience and making sure you've got that product market fit, super important. There's a really powerful quote on Man's Search for Meaning, and it goes, "He who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how." And in the context of that situation in the book, it's really dark and morbid, but really powerful. I think brands need to take that quote to heart as well. You know, why am I here? What difference can I make? And then the how becomes that much less stressful and more clear. And so for brands just getting started, I would really look inward and make sure your purpose is set, and then start to look outward, understand the landscape that you're in, and really focus your efforts so you're making the most impact.
Right. Sometimes brands tend to gravitate towards platforms they're already familiar with, or just default to whatever they think is right without really thinking about the user.
Absolutely. And I can see, you know, people might think TikTok is really daunting, like, oh, I don't dance, I don't sing, what am I going to do there? But you got to search for those brands that are doing something different. And so getting out of that comfort zone is absolutely critical in this day and age, because we got to go where the attention is. And if the attention is on these other platforms and these other formats, we need to think about how we evolve out of our comfort zone to meet the standards that people are expecting today.
One big question when launching a social media campaign is posting frequency. So from your perspective, how often should a brand publish new content?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I think when you're starting, the more the merrier. I think the first year on social, especially if you're starting from like a cold start, brand new channel, you're getting your first 100 followers in, frequency is going to be the key to finding out what works. And so the more you can do consistently, the better. So I would say post every day, post multiple times a day. If you've got the bandwidth to do that and you're all in and you want that organic growth, absolutely go for it. Not all brands can do that, right? Other brands have a lot of other layers of business and operations that they need to be focused on. So maybe it's one time a week that works well for your brand. I think the right answer to that question is just enough, right? And I think that goes not only into frequency, but also content and format too. You want to post the right amount that you're delivering value through your content. If in your quest to post every single day, your content is bad, it is not getting engagement the way you want, and it doesn't feel valuable to the audience, well, then you dial it back, right? But I always think in art and design and in content, you want to push to the boundaries of things and then scale it back. And those boundaries become really apparent, and they are really a guiding force to how you distribute content and programming. So if you're a standard brand, look, I'd say the best recommendation is probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? Build your content on the weekends, build it on your Tuesdays and Thursdays, and try to hit 3 times a week. I think that's a really good cadence. And I've built lots of brands that way, just keeping that consistent pace. But again, you got to know who you are, what type of brand you're working in. If you're a product-based brand, something you can physically touch and look at, it might be easier for you to do more content. If you're a SaaS product or something in the software space, maybe your content is a bit more thoughtful, a little bit less on frequency. But I think under all of that, consistency is going to be the key. So there's not a single right answer, but as you look at the platforms that you're working on and creating that calendar, I think it's super important you leverage tools like Later, Airtable, and even just an Excel spreadsheet if that's all you got, so that your frequency can be mapped so that you're driving that consistency and accountability to your teams to deliver that content. And I think, if you're a personal brand and you have that bandwidth, there's tons of value in posting way more frequently, right? 3 times a day with little nuggets. Maybe it's a story, maybe it's a feed post, maybe it's a quick reel. Again, I think ultimately as you look and map that through to frequency, consistency is going to underpin all of that. And that's probably the most critical aspect of how you plan. And I think absolutely having a calendar is going to keep yourself honest and on point to deliver those assets to your audience.
Sometimes even thinking about scheduling and posting prevents brands from posting at all.
100%. People often ask me the question, like, how long should my YouTube video be? It's like, well, it should be as long as it needs to be, right? And I think content the same way. You should post as much as you need to, as much as you feel you're adding value to the conversation. Don't pigeon yourself into I'm posting once a day or I'm posting a week arbitrarily, right? Fit it into a strategy, fit it into your life and what you're doing. Because I think that's super important early stage, that you're being consistent with yourself and planning accordingly, right? Because it's all the little things come together. I think of like social media and calendars as like a car. And this is probably a pretty wild analogy, but if you think about a car, right, it's got lots of components that actually make it run. Your wheels are probably your social platforms, right? What platforms am I running my content on? Your frequency is the gasoline, right? So if you put a little bit of gas, you're going to get only so far. If you do a lot, you're going to get further. And so I think as you're working and building that engine, that heartbeat, that muscle that's going to drive your car, you got to know which road you're on, right? Am I on the right road? Is the car the right vehicle to get me there? Do I need to be on 4 platforms with 4 wheels? Or maybe is a bike or a motorcycle going to be the best way to get there? But then really establishing what's the gasoline and how much am I going to put into that vehicle to get me where I need to go? And so social media is absolutely a vehicle to your business goals. So I just keep that in mind. Temper out what you have. If content is a limited resource for you, you got to space that out and make sure you can still get to your destination.
So next, what kinds of content do you recommend a brand should use in a social media campaign?
Video. It's so important these days. And I'm not saying this even from a personal perspective. I'm looking at the data. I look at eMarketer and I look at the market trends. Video consumption is going through the roof, and it's going to continue to be the platform choice. Instagram pivoting from a photo sharing platform to a video platform, the advent of TikTok and its incredible growth. Video is here, and it's only going to continue to be an important part of people's daily lives. And I think if you ask the question, why video, you really start to understand and unlock consumer behavior. And so I think you got to do a multimedia mix, right? Because you can't just do videos, all day, every day. I mean, if you got the bandwidth, bless you. But ultimately, mixing your mediums is going to be the best way to test and learn. Maybe your audience is a little bit older. They don't really want to stick around for 15-second videos, but they love a good photo that stops their scroll, that really is impactful with a great caption that connects to them. If you're a younger person, your attention spans are so finite, and video is probably the only thing that's going to get you to stick around for a short period of time. So again, going back to that product market fit, really understanding who your audience is and how they want to be spoken to. An older demo might prefer an email newsletter. And so maybe your social is driving to a newsletter or a podcast or another format that's a bit more consumable. But I do think as you look at that mix of content, you really want to make sure you've got a broad sense of who your audience is and what type of content they want to consume. If you're a general product brand in early stage, I absolutely think you got to play into the aspects of the platforms that really work and that have that viral attention. So where is the humor? Where are the memes? Where's this user generated or fan content that I can mix in to not only ease the burden on myself from a production perspective, but also leverage into the audience that I have and make them feel a part of the brand that we're building together. But underpinning all of that, I think, especially organic growth these days, if you want to go all in on a TikTok or an Instagram, if video is not part of your strategy, video clips, pieces of video, I think you're going to have a hard time. And so I would underpin video these days does not need to be super high production quality. It can very much be something shot on your phone. But experiment. That first year is absolutely about testing things out, seeing what sticks, and then adapting over time to make sure you're meeting the needs of your audience and following what they're telling you. If they're liking and engaging on a certain style of post, double down. Figure out why it's working. Ask questions. And video is such an amazing format that blends the best of audio and photo together in such a seamless experience. And I can see why brands are prioritizing it, because right now it is the thing that is capturing the most attention.
We've touched on the content creation aspect, which is only the tip of the spear. An essential part of any social media campaign is building the funnel to see those sales. So from your perspective, what is a successful call to action for our social media campaign? It's
a tried and true question that we have as marketers. I think a good call to action is surprising. It's unexpected, learn more, buy now. Those are all great. And they work super well in ads where the ask from the individual seeing the content is very specific, right? 40% off, buy now. That works really well. And so I think ultimately from a call to action, what I'm looking for is, does the call to action match the creative that's being presented with it? And oftentimes we do these calls to action that are purely text-based, and I feel like they lose a lot of their luster when actually reaching a consumer, because they're lacking that visual aid that really draws and keeps that engagement through. And so if I've got a lockup of a beautiful product, a smart tagline, maybe I'm using a different word like discover or explore versus just learn, right? Learn feels very, very educational, right? And I think we're now in an infotainment space where I want to learn, but I also want to be entertained. And so have some punchy copy, try some things out. Again, I think with a call to action, especially if someone's getting to the end of that piece of content, there's so much value in having a little bit of brand personality in that call to action that can really help drive your success. And then measuring it, right? You got to make sure you're building that funnel, what happens after the click, right? It's just as important as what's going into getting the click. So I really like simple landing pages. I think they work super effectively in terms of just getting someone to that point of action where not only have they gone from one platform to another, but I'm also limiting how much I'm asking of the user. If I'm already asking you to jump from social back to the top of my profile, they hit my link in bio to go to a landing page, I've already asked you for a lot. And so where can I add value along the stages of that interaction? Maybe it's through a discount that's going to compel someone to take that journey with me. And the call to action then is about incentivizing that discovery. So absolutely, I think as you go through building your funnel, limit the amount of clicks that someone needs, the hoops that someone needs to jump through to get to their destination. And ultimately understand what's brought them there. If you did a piece of content that was very informative, it dived into your product KSBs, that means that they're taking that into their click and now they want to learn a bit more. So don't reiterate what you just told them in the social post, right? Make that landing page add new and unique value so that call to action, when you say discover, find out more, explore with us, actually has some meaning behind it and adds value to the reality of what you're actually delivering on the other end of that click.
Very good, James. Well, there you have it. We've discussed what to look for when we're launching a social media campaign, posting frequency, creating a social media calendar. James, thank you so much for your expertise and your time today. This was the OK Yes podcast with me, Alejandra Copeland. To support this podcast, you can subscribe to our YouTube page and follow us on Instagram. OK Yes is a marketing and communications toolkit for startups and entrepreneurs. If you're ready to work on a pitch deck, create marketing video content, or produce a case study, our toolkit is loaded with lessons and worksheets to creatively empower you. Join the OK Yes waitlist now.